All right, Nick, let's go down to Tiger Town and talk about the Clemson Tigers. Death Valley has gotten some extremely exciting news. I think probably the biggest news of this offseason. And the player that they have gotten today, Nick, the player that they have gotten commitment from, is going to be monumental for this team going forward.
Minus, I agree with you 100%. It is a great day to be a Clemson Tiger fan. But before we get into that news, Clemson Tiger fans, look, we see you guys all the times in the comment section. Every time we do a Clemson video, you guys are smart, you're insightful, you know your stuff. And that's what leads me to what I want you to do today in the comment section below is give me your under the radar take or opinion about the Clemson Tiger football program right now as we get ready for the 2023 season. What do you know that no one else doesn't know right now? What is the media not covering that they really should about the Clemson Tiger program? Let us know in the comment section below. All right, Miles, what you got? Who's this massive pickup for the Clemson Tigers?
Yeah, Nick, when you are a Tiger fan, you feel pretty lucky because Dabo Swinney is at the helm and they are always very good at recruiting. We're talking about none other than the 2024 class. You got to think about the future, Nick. And this class is already top 15 in the country, so that has to feel good. But what else is better about a top 15 class is when you can add one of the top players in the country to that class, immediately going to give you a boost, Nick, going to get you right on up there. So that's why we're going to get into article right now. 5-star linebacker Sammy Brown of Jefferson, Georgia High announced his commitment to Clemson Monday afternoon. The 6'2", 230-pounder chose the Tigers over Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Nick. There's a lot of contenders in this recruiting of Brown. But he chose the Tigers, and he said there really wasn't any specific thing that made him commit to Clemson. No big-time event, Brown said. He said, I just prayed about it in the week leading up to the visit, and after Saturday, I just felt like the door had opened for me to commit. I think it was God's will for me to go to Clemson, and everything just kind of clicked. And Nick, that's Dabo's specialty. He makes kids feel like family, and that is the next part of this article is so important. He said, I am definitely super close with Coach Swinney and Coach Goodwin, Clemson's defensive coordinator. Brown said they're both really great people who love the game of football. Coach Swinney has done a great job of building the best culture in college football. There's a reason that almost no one enters the transfer portal. Coach Goodwin is a genius when it comes to defensive football, and they want me to be an inside backer and tell me that I have a chance to come in and compete for some playing time. So, Nick, this is big-time news for the Tigers. Sammy Brown is an elite player, number 5 player in the nation per 24/7 Sports, number 1 linebacker, number 1 player in Georgia. This guy is just ridiculous. You look at his measurables, 6'2", 230. There's videos of him online squatting 495 pounds for reps in the gym as a high schooler. Just absolutely insane guy. I think he's going to add a lot, Nick. But there's one other thing out. Wes Goodwin, give him his props because he goes against former Clemson defensive coordinator, head coach of Oklahoma, and Brent Venables, a so-called defensive genius, and wins the recruiting battle on a top-tier player, Nick. So I think this is a really, really big boost for Clemson's recruiting. They were already good, but this just shows that they are back to being one of the top destinations in the country. I am anxious now. What are your thoughts on Clemson? What do you think about Sammy Brown's commitment?
So it all comes down to this. We talk about it all the time. You have to win if you're Clemson, if you're Tennessee, if you're Georgia, the Smoky Mountain Corridor. We talk about it all the time. It, of course, is the area in the upstate South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, that Smoky Mountain Corridor. There is a lot of talented players, and to put that mildly, there's an incredible amount of talented players. And you got Brown here is no exception. But you look at what happens when you win this area when it comes to recruiting. It just breaks the rules of college football because the way college football has been the past decade or so, whoever has the best quarterback generally wins the national title or at least makes a really good run at it. The one exception are teams who can dominate recruiting in the Smoky Mountain Corridor. Georgia is a great example of this, right? Georgia has, I love Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett's a nice guy. I hope he has a good NFL career. He was not a top 5 quarterback in college football last year. Wasn't a top 10. Wasn't even a top 15 guy. He was a caretaker. Nice guy. I hope he has a great career. Didn't even graduate college, but I think he was good enough to run that offense. They won because they were so stacked across the entire board because they won this part of the country in the recruiting game. Tennessee has come back to relevance because they've gotten a little bit better recruiting this part of the country. And by the way, before Georgia was dominating, who was dominating college football? Clemson. Why? Because they dominated the Smoky Mountain corridor. For some strange reason, Mize, the teams that can win this area of the country in the recruiting game, they don't win 9 games, they don't win 10 games, they win titles. They get the biggest ring of them all. And I think the fact that Clemson was able to go into Jefferson, Georgia, get this commit, kind of reestablish themselves as the preeminent contender in this region will be huge for them. Because as we've seen the last 5, 6, 7 years, the teams that recruit the best out of this region win national titles. We saw Georgia kind of flip the script against Clemson a couple years ago. They start recruiting better. They win back-to-back. Clemson's trying to return the favor here, and it looks like they're pulling it off. And if they can continue this trend, and we talk about it all the time, good recruiting begets better recruiting. You bring in 1 5-star from this area, you're going to start getting more of these 4 or 5 stars coming with it. I think this is sort of the first step in stone in terms of a lot of commits from this area to Clemson. And don't be surprised if you look back and, or look forward 2, 3, 4 years and Clemson's back in national title games, competing at the highest level. You can look back to the Sammy Brown commitment and say, oh yeah, here's the moment where the script flipped and Clemson took control of the Smoky Mountain corridor yet again, and Dabo Swinney was able to reiterate himself as one of the top, if not the top coach in college football. I think this is a great sign for the long-term health in terms of winning national titles again for the Clemson Tigers program.
Yeah, Nick. And just before we end the video, I want to go over just how insane this kid is as far as an athlete. There's some really important points we need to break out. Not only did this guy rack up 200 tackles in his high school career so far, not only did he rush for 3,500 yards, not only was he a 3-year starter at the varsity level, Nick, but this guy put up back-to-back gold medal state championship performances on the wrestling mat, and he posted some insane track and field numbers as well, especially for a guy who was north of 225 pounds, Nick. This guy is a difference maker in all aspects. He's a multifaceted athlete, and this just shows how incredible of a pickup this was for the Tigers.